Welcome to the show. My name's Chris and I cover technology from an Australian perspective. Please subscribe. Are we there yet? Oh, I think we're there. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Tell me you can hear me. Tell me you can hear me. Oh my gosh. Yay. Indeed, Knight. Indeed. Oh my gosh. That was hilarious for all the wrong reason. I'm so sorry. But I had this going 10 minutes before we went live and everything was fine. And then when I did the first transition to this mug, you got the blank screen. Mate. Anyway, well, thank you for hanging around. It's been live for the last 14 bloody minutes. And so sorry about that one. So, you're well? All right. I'll try to make this a nice, short, sweet little live stream. I wanted to talk about three things. Tesla AI Day, what that means. Deliveries about Tesla, because, you know, that's awesome. But importantly, the High Court case. So just for a reminder for those people out there, if you behind the scenes and you get news polls and stuff that I just can't show you here on YouTube. And yeah, so follow the links to find out more, okay? So with that said, I think we should get straight into, where are we? I think we're over here somewhere. The deliveries, yeah? And it's been quite impressive, quite impressive. And what you're seeing on screen here is they had a production of 365,923 vehicles. This is for, obviously, Tesla. And delivered 343,830, meaning about 20,000 vehicles were in transit, which might explain why the share market isn't so happy the last few days. I don't understand that. Why? Because those 20,000 deliveries are actually for purchased, sold vehicles. And of that breakdown, as you can see on screen there, between either production or deliveries, about 94% of them are Tesla Model 3 and Ys. And that's significant because in Australia, more than, Tesla has become, the Tesla Model Y has become the most popular SUV priced over $60,000, outselling its nearest competitor, the BMW X3, tenfold. Tenfold. That's incredible. 4,359 Tesla Model Ys were delivered in this last quarter, and they beat that, you know, in that market segment, BMW more than 10 times. And we now have in Australia more than 55,000 pure electric cars in Australia right now, which is significant. And just in the leaderboard here, look at that. They've taken over, and the actual percentage of brand new electric vehicle registrations in Australia is 2.7%. So great result for, I think, Tesla, a great result for Australia, because it means that people are getting it, they're adopting and they're changing their habits, and there's still a lot of work to do. And if you like electric vehicles and maybe you subscribe for that reason, promote the heck out of them, teach and inform, and, you know, dispel myths. My wife keeps asking me to please do a video talking about electric cars, not electric vehicles, because let's face it, who goes, oh, my Mazda MX-30 out there, or what's a better example of that? My MX-5, my internal combustion engine vehicle. People don't speak like that. They just go, my car. And so I think we need to change the vernacular a bit, get people seeing them as cars. Sure, they're run by a battery, but they're just cars, and they're really basic and cheap to run and cheap to maintain and all that sort of awesome stuff. And Tesla is once again showing its dominance in this market by outcompeting BMW. And that's a great thing to see. Great thing. So I want to speak to now some of the stuff around Tesla AI Day, because there's two big things here, which I think, well, three really. And the first one was that Elon Musk, he said quite plainly up front, both also in a tweet, which I can find later, but it doesn't matter, that this is a hiring exercise. This is a hiring exercise. This is a demonstration of the technical engineering and prowess that is Tesla. And this is a marketing exercise in recruiting people to the company. And it was super impressive just seeing what they have to offer here with Dojo, the supercomputer, and also that robot, which, you know, I've also got some thoughts on. So let me step you through some of my reflections. And the first one is this. The Dojo supercomputer. This thing is so remarkably powerful that it actually tripped the power grid in Palo Alto in San Francisco. That's an impressive feat in itself. And this custom supercomputer is built on, like, from ground up. It's designed for artificial intelligence, machine learning, and in particular for video training from all those video data streams that are coming from all the Teslas all around the world. And this is what we need to get to FSD, full self-driving, and to get it to fruition. Now, this little picture here, where you've got those little 6 boxes, if you take one of these, it actually uses, this tray, it uses 2000 amps or at 52 volts DC to run. And I did some conversion, and that works out to be 180 kilowatts of energy to run this. So you can understand why they might have tripped up the grid over in good old San Francisco. And then take one of these 6 and then multiply that and stack it. And then suddenly you've got an even bigger computer, which this is a start. This is a good start. And this Tesla claims can replace 6 GPU boxes with just 1 Dojo tile. Okay, so that stack before was, the 6 was 1 Dojo tile. So these things are going to be costing a lot less. They're going to use less materials, and they are incredibly powerful. And the specs of them are just out of this world. And think of that, when you take that tray of 6 into the cube, and then you put it into a massive rack like this is when you've got a true supercomputer going on. And the specifications of this, you've got a 1.1 exaflop per second computer. That actually means 1 quintillion, oh my gosh, I can't even say the number, quintillion floating point operations per second. 1 quintillion floating point operations per second. 1.1, that's insane. It's got 1.3 terabytes of SRAM. That's high quality, very fast RAM. And your average computer only has maybe 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM, and that represents just 1.6 of a terabyte. And then there's like 13 terabytes of high bandwidth DRAM in addition to it. And it's just, it boggles the brain that they've got so much computing power, and they're going to harness that for not just full self-driving and to get people, you know, to drive the cars for them. That's going to be a game changer, let's face it. This, as Elon said, or someone in the thing, is an order of magnitudes plus some and then some. And it's just going to actually revolutionize the way in which we think about the world in which we operate, giving computers the really hard job of working out the very hard things that we can't even begin to sort of break down. And they had some really awesome graphics. I tried to find a still for it, showing, you know, how this is all sort of working, and conceptualize a big massive diagram, and it had billions of data points, and it was just insane. Like, just the computing power of this is amazing. So the next one, and really I'm kind of disappointed in the media for actually taking the negative side on this one, was around the humanoid robot. And the significance here is manifold again. All right, so we've got a computer, And they've got a Tesla Model 3, Model Y computer, and they've whacked it into this robot, this humanoid robot. And Elon Musk says that their mission is to make millions of these, to replace boring and dangerous jobs and tasks, and to get real world functionality that's autonomous, not driven by someone with a joystick controller pushing it around and driving it somewhere to do a particular job for one job only. They're trying to make this capable of doing a lot more. And they've got to radically change the labor market. And at one point, Elon kind of got quite philosophical and went into a whole thing around economy and what does economy mean. And this will actually shape and change the economy as we think about it. And so I'll be fascinated to see how it actually works out because, well, only not even a year ago, they revealed a concept that was a silly little dancing person dressed up like a robot. It was the worst PR ever. And then just this last Saturday, just 10 months later, they produced a robot that's actually like 73 kilograms in weight and is able to walk, and that's important, and is leveraging on the autopilot hardware and software. So keep that in mind for later. It's processing vision data. It's not just actually doing as it's told with like a remote control. It does split-second decisions using multi-sensory inputs. It's got wireless connectivity, audio support, so it can do language and things like that. And you've got hardware security features. And they're going to be trying to do this for about $20,000. And that's just seriously amazing. In 10 months, they've made a robot out of, well, they've started to make a robot. And if you do a comparison to something like, Boston Scientific, and Boston Scientific, they actually have been around since I think the 1990s. Checks his notes, and yeah, 1992. And these guys have been making robots for a specific purpose. And they've got these little demonstrations like this cute little dancey thing. And that's amazing. Like it's flipping, it's jumping, it's running, it's doing weight transitions and so on and so forth. And there's no doubt that Boston Scientific, which is owned by LG, by the way, they are the market leader. But conversely, in just 10 months, Tesla has come by order of magnitude, because that's Elon's favorite word, let's face it, and produced a robot that can actually, well, there's got a second version now, Optimus, that can actually walk. And it's, they've got all the makings of something that's going to revolutionize the marketplace. And we need to appreciate that Tesla, they're not just a car company. They're a technology company. They've got the benefit of vertical integration. So you think they do cars, so therefore they do batteries, they do stationary storage. They also do solar. They do chargers, superchargers. They're going to be doing robotics. They're doing trucks soon. And now they're, if you ask me, they should be doing aviation, because that's the next frontier, which I think Tesla would again do really, really well in. And if you take all those things and you think about the big picture of what this company is doing, it's astounding. And it's kind of, again, disappointing that people just can't see how magnificent this is. So yeah, I just thought that was worthy of saying, because it's sometimes the media just like to put out a negative picture out there. And for that probably reason, if you want to buy Tesla stock, now's probably the time to buy Tesla stock. Just, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take my financial advice, okay? All right, so let's get into now, I think, the main event, and that's the electric vehicle tax and my High Court challenge. And there's been a few significant changes since I last spoke about this publicly. And first up, I need to always caveat all this by saying, first up, I'm the plaintiff. So I need to be very cautious of what I say publicly, because again, I've got legal privilege and I don't want to derail this process, because in doing so, it's going to have ramifications for all Australians. Okay, so just thought I'd put that out there, right? And so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it and understand about this world's worst tax, dubbed by the VW boss of Australia as the world's dumbest tax. And let me just catch you up in case you don't know what's going on in this space, which is kind of interesting because I do get questions about this quite regularly. And people ask me, oh, what's the go with this? You know, and it's in my YouTube comments on videos, other videos that aren't related to this video. And so, yeah, whenever I can, I like talking about it, but conversely, I don't want to flood this channel with just this topic because, let's face it, there's a lot more interesting stuff than this, isn't there? Taxes, yeah. Anyway, let's move on. So, the tax was premised by Tim Pallas. Now, Tim Pallas is our treasurer for Victoria, and he put this media release out saying that this is to ensure that people who drive battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles, ones with battery as well as, you know, petrol motors, pay their fair share of road taxes. Now, to start off with, let me just say this, okay? And I'll touch on this a few more times, but I'll just try and say this quite clearly now. We all pay for roads. We all pay for roads. If you pay for taxes, you pay for roads. If you pay stamp duty, you pay for roads. If you do income tax, you've ever purchased a house. If you pay rates in your local council, you've paid for roads. The fuel excise, in particular, has not actually directly paid for roads since the 1950s. 1950s, okay? So when somebody, a politician says that we need to bring a brand new tax in because you guys aren't paying for your fair share, it's already sprouting, you know, spruiking garbage, okay? Just got to say that quite clearly, straight off the bat. Okay, so quotes attributable, oh my gosh, I really can't talk today, I need some water, by Tim Pallas, some of these little golden nuggets where he is unashamedly getting this tax because he can, so he thinks, and we're going to challenge on this, but so he thinks he's unashamedly doing this. And that when challenged by the federal colleague, he said to them, look, you keep out of this. You keep out of this. This is our money. We're going to keep it. And the rest of the states of Australia and territories agree with us. And actually they do. So I'm going to fast forward a second and I'll rewind again. After we launched this legal challenge, we very soon after had New South Wales intervene. That is to say, to support the defence of Victoria. So Victoria is the defendant here, and they need to defend this case, and we're the plaintiffs. So New South Wales came on board as an intervener, and they basically saying, we support Victoria, and yes, we're going to hurrah, hurrah, and that gives them the opportunity to have some time in the High Court to have their say. Then soon after that, we had Queensland, and then we had, I think it was South Australia, and then we had WA, then we had Tasmania, then we had the ACT, and then we had the Northern Territory. Did I say Queensland? There's somewhere in there. Definitely did. Anyway, so all the states and territories are definitely supporting Victoria on this because they want to charge their own tax on electric vehicles. Okay. And this tax, this consumption tax, and I'll talk again about that later, is essentially, it was premised at 2.5 cents per kilometre driven for battery electric vehicles and 2 cents per kilometre for plug-in hybrid vehicles. And you have to take a photograph, submit to Vic Roads your reading, they work out the difference, they charge you amount of money, and per year they estimate it's going to cost the average consumer about $300 to $500 per year. Over the lifetime of a vehicle, we're talking $3,000 to $5,000, okay? Not insignificant at all. In July this year, so the second year in rather, it increased to 2.6 and 2.1 cent per kilometre. And that means that we've actually now had a 4% increase in that price. And yeah, it's gonna, you know, inflation's a thing, isn't it? It really is. So let's think about taxes, shall we? And what are taxes and why do we need taxes? Okay, and this might not be the best graphic, but I think it is something that we all have to pay, let's face it, and we all want to have a fair share of, you know, road user costs and so forth. But you know, when someone says to me, but Chris, I pay fuel excise and you know, you don't, it's only fair that you pay, it's kind of like, but I don't buy petrol, So I don't have to pay for fuel excise because, you know, fuel excise is a tax on fuel. Quite simple. And then the other analogy I like to use sometimes is, do you smoke or do you drink? And they'll be like, no, I do neither. And so it's like, well, should you be paying a nicotine tax or an alcohol tax? And they'll be like, no, why should I? Because I don't drink them, I don't smoke them. Same is true for people who drive battery electric vehicles. You know, I think, you know, doing the next step, the next jump for some, like myself, is because it's clean and green. I can recharge my car from solar, from my battery. I pay for renewable energy where I can. Well, there are actually credits and stuff like that, but that's another conversation. The Australian grid is getting greener and greener. We're now at 35% saturation with renewables, and it's forecast to be about 60% before the end of this decade. And my car, you know, it's not damaging people's lungs. It's not actually harming the environment. It's not warming the planet. And these are reasons that I chose to go electric. And it really incenses me that I'm paying tax right now that discourages uptake of electric vehicles. It penalizes people for doing the right thing. And taxes are for good and bad reasons. They put a tax in, like you think about the cost of cigarette packets. They've increased 400% since the 1990s because of taxes. And in doing that, they've gone from 25% smoking rate down to about 14% now. And that's because the cost has gotten too expensive. And that's what taxes are for, to encourage people to do something. That is to say, they take away taxes, and to discourage people from doing things. So they put on taxes. Yeah. So that's my conversation around taxes just for the moment. So coming to the whole little shenanigans about, you know, our High Court case and what we're arguing here. And that is that our argument, and I'm going to read my notes, so I'm very careful what I'm saying. Our argument is that these charges fall within Section 90 of the Constitution, which states that taxes on goods are taxes on some step taking and dealing with goods. Okay? Now, there's a bit to unpack there, and this is what the lawyers and the barristers will be doing. And as you can appreciate, it costs money doing this sort of stuff. So I'll tell you how you can help out with this later on. But, you know, again, if you can support the channel, great. Appreciate it. So this is a consumption tax. The more kilometers you travel, the more you pay. Okay? Now, the Victorian Zero and Low Emission Vehicle Distance-Based Charge Act of 2021, the ZLEF Act is sometimes called, and I might say ZLEF tonight, by the way, not to confuse anybody. It imposes a tax on goods, specifically, and this is from the legislation, the Victorian legislation, on zero and low emission vehicles. Now, people think that we're a bit crazy and that this is purely a charge or some sort of fee. And thankfully, there's already been several precedents on this very sort of nature, whereby there's a very famous one from the 1990s of Ha versus New South Wales. And essentially, in that case and two other ones, the ZLEF charge, it imposes a tax on goods, and particularly obviously battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. And that charge is calculated by reference to the quantity of a consumer's usage of a vehicle. And so it imposes an excise and therefore is invalid under Section 90 of the Constitution. And people will say to me sometimes, oh, but Chris, you know, a duty is not a tax, or a tax is not an excise, or an excise is not a, you name it. But when you're actually charging something based upon kilometers traveled and distance traveled, you're charging basically a consumption tax, and that falls to the federal government. Okay, so yesterday there was a key event, and that was the federal government was able to submit its special case about what they are doing to support us. So the federal government, unlike the rest of Australia, all those other states and territories I spoke about before, the federal government is intervening on our behalf, on the plaintiff's behalf. And we've got in one corner, you've got the, Solicitor General, and in the other corner, you've got all the others, okay? And so the federal government yesterday, they submitted their case, and I saw in the comments when everything was just starting, people were saying that, yeah, there's like a 30-page document or something like that. That was Scotty, I think it was. Hi, Scotty. He's one of my Patreon producers, by the way, so howdy. Yeah, there's been massive documents. These things are 170 pages long. There's affidavits, there's evidence, and there's the stuff that, again, legal privilege, I can't get into it, but nonetheless, there's a lot of documentation out there. If you want to go looking for it, you can. It's just not, I never said this. High Court of Australia, log in, have a look-see. Anyway, you need a special login, but you can get that login if you really, really want to. Just saying, just saying. It's publicly available, but again, I've got to be cautious what I say, don't I? So all the other states and territories, in terms of what we call the consent orders, that is to say a timetable of events, the next significant date that we've got is for the state and territory interveners to file their submissions in support of Victoria by November 7. And then we've got a final key date of the 25th of November, where it's kind of like the High Court says this, that's it, no more bets, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. What have you decided? What do we need to do? And that's when we say, well, we can't agree on this bit of the Constitution. And that's when the High Court will say, okay, let's have a hearing. It'll be 2 days, we estimate, and budget-wise, I hope so too. And we hope to get a date. Realistically, it'll probably be by February next year. I hope in December. It'd be a lovely Christmas present, wouldn't it? That we can actually just have this done and dusted and chucked out, and the tax rule to be invalid, because that's going to have ramifications for all Australians, all Australians. So you know full well, New South Wales, they've got this tax coming. 30%, I think it is, of battery electric vehicles are 30% of all sales. It kicks in. So it could be 2027 or sooner. Who else is doing it too? There's other places that are doing this. WA, they're also going to be doing it as well. Okay. Now, the problem with this tax is that, well, first up, why just battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles? Where's the fairness in that? Where's the equity in that? It's clunky in its implementation. So when we had that price increase, they just average your kilometers over a year. And there's no application of, well, you did this many kilometers in this financial year, you did this many in this financial year, so we're going to charge you that and that, and there's your total sum. Give us the money. You drive on private roads, you still charge. You drive on toll roads, you still charge. You drive interstate and go around Australia and do an awesome holiday, you're still charged for Victorian roads. And then the same is true for you. If you live in New South Wales or in Perth or Northern Territory or in the ACT or in South Australia, where it's been scrapped but it's going to come back, or in Tasmania, you're going to have to pay this stupid tax by your state. So the stakes here are high. They really are. And it's great that we've got in our corner now the federal government supporting our case. And my patrons know that I'm a bit tired. It's because when you get all these massive files to read through, it's a little bit of work. But anyway, I'm happy to do it. And Kath, who's also the plaintiff for the plug-in hybrid vehicle owners, she's awesome, and she's better across this stuff than me. She's got like a Word document with everything detailed. And again, can't share, but it's good to have this sort of stuff, isn't it? So a lot of dramatic hands going on there, so I'm really sorry about that. So I guess the question here is, well, do you guys have some questions? Which is the bit where I need to start looking at the screen and see what's going on. And oh my gosh, there's been 107 comments. So let me just rewind a bit. Oh no, we're getting some spam in there, folks. Just do that. Yep, it's still there. No, it's still there. Okay. All right. Just moving on. I might go backwards. Let's go backwards. And this makes more sense these days. I have to do an order. I've got to do an order. If you've got a question, maybe just shoot me one now so I can actually keep it fresh. Because yeah, I need to. I've been just talking wax lyrical for a bit. So yeah, let's go through this now. Where are we? Yeah, blank screen. And Deborah Shepherd became a member. Thank you, Deborah. That's really awesome of you. I really do appreciate that. And yeah, I'm really sorry about those technical issues at the front there. That was, again, I had everything working, and then the third slide in, the third transition rather, it just decided not to work. Ah, matey mate. Sometimes. I'm getting my internet upgraded, so hopefully that will help this. Hopefully this will help this. No, I'm a McDonald's fan, people. Yeah, anyway, stand by. All right, here we go. Still coming down. What's the cost of electricity to run a car per kilometer versus a tax? Gosh, well, okay. There's two ways you could cut that question. I'll just put that on screen just so people can see that. Scrolling right down to the bottom. Yeah. Oh, wrong one. There it is. There we go. Awesome. Perhaps when I click on the right button. Okay, so basically, the more expensive petrol gets, the cheaper it gets to run an electric vehicle, particularly if you've got solar and maybe a battery. Okay, right now it's for us, we pay, I think, 21 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. Translate that to petrol, I would have to be paying 5 times that amount, so basically like $1 per kilowatt of electricity to do the same number of kilometers. Hope that makes sense. That's the best way I can explain it. But then there's another more complicated method whereby you speak to the actual electricity costs of mining the oil, transporting the oil, refining the oil, transporting the oil, storing the oil, delivering the oil. This is petrol now, by the way. And the amount of energy, massive amount of energy that goes into actually running an internal combustion engine vehicle. It actually makes them even less efficient. And remember, we've got subsidies in Australia for fossil fuels. Last financial year, they got direct funding of $4.5 billion to keep 2 refineries open. In unrealized taxes from them, what's the latest figure? The last figure I can remember was $29 billion in subsidies. That is to say that we don't tax them enough money, so they get, a free ride. And wouldn't it be lovely to not pay taxes? Yeah. Anyway, that's coming a bit off subject. And Lindsay Brown says that there's an Excel I can send. Thank you very much. If you could, my email address is down below. It's the new one, the electricchrisau. Thanks, Sensei Shredder, for that suggestion. Grumpy Old Man and EV, that's Nige on his channel, so go check him out. He's awesome. The cost of 150 watt hours per kilometer, 15 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks, is 0.15 your cost per kilowatt hour. Per kilowatt. Okay. So that's another way of doing it, a bit of a fraction. Okay, that's another way. Alrighty, so this is definitely, yeah, well said. It's a cash grab, and even Tim Pallas has said himself, it's a cash grab. It purely is. This is why the states and territories are all in support of it, because they want to tax what they want to tax. And fun fact, by the way, back in the 1990s, just checks notes, there was a tax imposed by each state. And so it was, here we go, up until 1997, Victoria and other states charged their own fuel franchise fees. Okay, so we have fuel excise and there's a fuel franchise fee. And that was derailed by a High Court challenge that suggested that this practice, well, this is the words, they said it was unconstitutional, and that the Commonwealth is responsible for charging excise. So a bit of a fun fact. So you've got there's that one, there's another significant one. And when you look at the lawyer submissions, they argue a word, and that's excise, and that's tax, and a charge, and a consumption, and all that stuff. And let's leave that up to them, shall we? Because that's where they're experts in it. So where are we at now? Yeah, definitely Gaffer, for sure. We all pay for roads. People who don't even use our roads, let's say you're pedestrian, they pay for our roads too. Yes. All right. So I'm just trying to rewind here on the questions, and I'll be wrapping it up. So yeah, look, it's still a little way to go. We're now in October. Best case scenario, this could be done by December, and more than likely probably in February. And when it does happen, I will be driving to Canberra in my MG ZSEV, because that's the vehicle that's part of our evidence file. and I will have it parked as close as I can to the High Court itself and saying, this is what we're about. We're trying to do good for the world here, and we've got people who are just trying to derail that, which is obviously very disappointing. We've had, so ways to support this, by the way. So there's the Chuffed Fund, and so I'll leave a link in this video after where you can go and contribute, and it's kind of like a GoFundMe sort of thing. And to date, we've got more than almost 800 supporters. We've raised more than $50,000, which has basically covered our preliminary costs. And up next will be the High Court hearing dates. And if you know the cost of barrister fees, and so we'll have coffee, folks. The barrister fees, it's going to be expensive 2 days, but nonetheless, we've got a great legal team. Equity generation lawyers, my lawyers, and they've commissioned three very experienced barristers who will be doing the talky talk in the court. And I'll be there listening and watching with great intent, and hopefully it's a successful outcome, because if it's unconstitutional, guess what? We get our money back. Yay! That's silver lining stuff, isn't it? Silver lining, but nonetheless, it's something that we need to do. Alrighty, now scrolling down. If anyone missed it, it was posted the High Court link document above. Scott. I'll put a link there. Yeah, I can do that. Again, public accessible document. Anyway, all right. Well, I think if there's no more questions, I'll answer them in comments later on. And if you can help out the channel in any way, great. Subscribe, join YouTube memberships, go over to Patreon. What else can you do? Chuffed. I'll leave the link down below to Chuffed. And let's get this world's dumbest tax, the world's stupidest EV tax in the whole world, done and dusted, because this is going to impact all Australians. And also, let's face it, we don't want to stuff up this world anymore, do we? No, we don't. All right. Well, let's see what happens in the very near future. And, I think it's just only time will tell. And if you've watched till now, I really do appreciate it. And apologies once again for the craziness that is YouTube. But I'll see you soon.